But anyway, welcome to my house.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I don't actually know how to pronounce your last name.
Okay. I'm Jordan LaVergne, aka Jazzbandito, and I am from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I currently reside in Baton Rouge.
Awesome. And you and I came to meet in a really interesting way. I I signed up for a massage
Yeah.
at my favorite place that I like to go downtown. And Jordan was my massage therapist. And I was actually, if I'm not mistaken, I was pretty crabby that day. Like I was not a happy camper. And and I walk in and like obviously massages are like kind of intimate settings because of all the reasons. And we had just the best conversation. I was like, you need to come over. And now here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are for our interview.
Manifestation.
Yeah, we manifested. Actually, I think that was part of our conversation that day. But I was just so impressed by your youth and your dedication to the community. And also to you had a huge accomplishment in your music career where he had just made it into the New York Times. Yay!
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Shout out Giancarlo Valentine.
Yeah.
Valentine. Gio.
Right on, Giancarlo. He sounds Italian. We're probably related.
He is not Italian.
He's not.
His name does not fit him. It's bougie. He's bougie like his name, but
That's awesome. Well, Jordan's a great sport, and so he's agreed to come over and play question roulette. And I let him glance at the questions, but we don't actually know what's gonna happen.
they were some tough ones.
They were some. Well, I wanted it to be really just. I wanted it to be more fun than anything else because interviews can just get really stiff or just like I don't know, just not fun. I'm gonna save this one for the. No, you know what? Let's crank it up.
Okay. Straight to 10.
Straight to 10. Is there anything that you're hoping I don't ask about today? Because this is a good icebreaker.
Relationships.
Ah. All right.
Get
Well,
that one out
let's
the way.
dive in there. That's so funny because that's usually mine. So instead of asking about relationships, is there something that you're learning about yourself in relationship right now?
Yeah. I am definitely one track minded. So I'm either like super productive, super focused on self, super go get it, let's accomplish things. And then, I don't tend to home life, or I'm like, let's just cuddle all day and I don't accomplish anything. And I'm trying to find the balance in the two.
Yeah. That's interesting. Are you finding that you're a cyclical type of person? Like, do you find that like for a certain length of time, you're in one mindset or the other?
Definitely, but I don't know what the on off switch is. You know what I mean? I don't know when the seasons are coming, and I don't know if it's trackable. I think it's just at random. And of course, life events take place, and different things put different pressure on. Of course, if I had a show coming up, I'd be like, okay, gotta go to the studio. I can't be at home. You know what I mean? But with COVID and everything, things have kind of just been blah. You know what I mean? I can gravitate toward them if I choose to, but for the most part, I'm just like, I'd rather just chill.
Mm-hmm. Is there any art form in particular that you're feeling really immersed in or really enthusiastic about?
Right now, I am deep into cinema, more so like old cartoons, and just the way they pander to people in different demographics, and what I mean, things I didn't catch when I was a younger kid, or even my parents didn't catch. And it's like, wow, okay. And then being here today in this PC time, and what I mean, I'm like, this show would never make it. You know what I mean? Like this would never air. They would be canceled. So I'm enjoying that right now because I never was. I'm just getting into like the binge watching things, and you know what I mean, watching movies back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I was never like that. I'd either get distracted or go to sleep, or you know what I mean, be like, okay, I can't sit here, I gotta be doing something. So now I'm like, okay, let's just chill and watch TV. I pay for all the subscriptions, I might as well, I might as well use it. Like,
What which cartoons are you watching? I'm curious, how far back are we going?
so recently I just started over again. I think Amazon Prime has like a bunch of things that were airing when I was in like middle school and high school. Last night I was watching Ugly Americans, which is a very unique show. Very unique. But as far as like the old ones, like Ren and Stimpy and
Ugh, I hated that show.
what's the Monsters one?
Monsters Inc.
No, not Monsters Inc.
Oh,
No, way
no,
before
no,
then.
no. I know what you're thinking of, and I'm calling it Monsters
With the
Inc. because
little
that's
guy
the movie.
with
Yeah,
the
Crumb. His name was
yeah,
Crumb.
Crumb, yeah. And like Rocco's Modern World and
Modern Life.
yeah, Modern
Modern
Life
Life.
there,
That
yeah.
was my era.
Yeah.
I'm a little older than you.
Yeah.
Rocker's Modern Life was my era. He's a phone sex operator in it.
And I never, you know what I mean,
Well,
totally went over
like
my
the child
head.
shouldn't
But I
necessarily know
think that my
that.
mom would have caught that. But you know,
Yeah.
she was just like, "What are y'all watching?" Okay, you know.
Okay. Yep.
I like a lot of Ed and Eddie and Kids Next Door, and just picking apart
Oh.
the ones that were like staples, like you get home from school and it's on, Courage the Cowardly Dog, things like that. Just nostalgic.
Okay. So I don't know some of them that you're watching. You're 26. I'm going on 35. So there's a little bit of an age gap. Um, that's really neat. I've noticed that. So I'm really excited about the TV show. It's a sitcom called Friends.
Oh, the reunion.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you were very young
Well,
at
we
that
actually, that
time.
was like family time for us.
Okay.
My mom and my brother and I all sat and watched Friends like every day. Every time it was on, we'd sit down and watch it. So
I'm so surprised. Whenever I go on social media, it's people bashing Friends, and I'm like, who the hell kept this on TV for 12 years? Because I loved it.
it's
Like,
so
I thought
much
it was
behind
great.
it, like because there was like Living Single and you know, all these other like black casted shows that kind of just
Mhm.
got cast away to the side, and then Friends came out and people were like, we've never seen anything like this. And that's a big thing in the black community. That's a big part of the backlash.
Okay.
It's like you go back through Friends and it's like Ross had like one black girlfriend and that's it, and you can't find any other black people. So yeah, no, but also they had some things that were like risque in there. It was like, if they aired that today, I don't know, Friends.
Really? I remember the episode with Rachel's lingerie, and her date's parents come home and they're like, let's take you guys to dinner. And she's like committed to wearing this like
That is also
not a
when
dress.
Phoebe was massage therapist.
Yeah, she was.
I never caught that as a kid. I
Yeah.
didn't even, I was like, I don't know why I like Phoebe the most, but now as an adult, I'm like, oh, duh.
Yeah, I never wanted to be compared to Phoebe, but now in adulthood, I'm like, that's
That
definitely
may
the
be me.
closest. Yeah, that's definitely me with my candles and all my plants.
You have a
that are
beautiful
off
plant
camera.
collection.
To be fair, they're my roommates. She tries with the plants. She's doing good.
I think so.
We've only had a couple casualties this year. All right, here's a good one. Do you believe that there is a link between art and spirituality?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of the things that we naturally do are not so much instinctually in us, but just bred into us. It's in our genes, it's in our background. And I think we've gotten so far away from that. But there's art in literally everything, just the way trees grow, you know what I mean? And it's just copy and pasted throughout life. You don't really notice until it's on a bigger scale or somebody puts it in front of your face. But every little thing, brushing your teeth can be art, you know what I mean? So I definitely think that connects to spirituality. And I think it flows through everybody, even the people that feel like they're the most square. I feel like, you know what I mean? Something moves you in your spirit when you see it or hear it or something. And if it hasn't, then go out and explore. You know, I say live more life. That's what
I like the perspective. I had picked up The Artist's Way, which is it's a book, but it's also meant to be like a 12-week workshop where you read a section every week, and then there are different tasks. And I found it really interesting because it teaches people how to go from feeling not creative to being more of a creator. But woven into it is a lot of healing of things like codependency, which happens to be one of my specialty areas. It's an area that I've had to work on myself to address and to overcome, where we chronically neglect ourselves and make other people more important. So we look for superiority in others, but dismiss ourselves as a way of gaining love, gaining affection, and meeting those needs within ourselves. And I found it so fascinating as I started to read her text. The author is Julia Cameron, and compare it to my own life, where I went through the bad marriage and I came out of it and I had to do a whole bunch of healing. And then I started to unpack those layers of grime that were kind of covering up, blocking that divine energy, that spiritual energy from getting all the way in and being anchored. And so, as some of that, I wish I could come up with a more poetic word than crud, but as some of that crud started to break down, I was creating more, and it came out in a lot of different forms um, that I wasn't really expecting. It came out in poetry and short stories, and I learned how to drum. Maybe we'll have to pull that out for an interview one day. My Southern Italian tambourine, but that was something that really struck me.
Sounds like I need this book. Sounds like I need to
Well,
get
you
a hold
can't
of it.
check my copy out from the Baton Rouge Library because my car flooded and I need to replace it.
Oh
But
no.
I know it was so gross. It smells like, have you ever left like a protein shake in your car and you forgot it for a couple days and then you're like, I need to wash this thing out or
It
throw it away?
haunts me. That smell haunts me. The worst is the refrigerator, the spoiled refrigerator smell. That'll follow you to your nightmares. I
Yeah,
promise. Like,
that is totally true. But it's super popular. Even if this is the first time that you're hearing about it, it's super popular. I think when I first looked it up at Baton Rouge Public, there were like 15 copies. So the one that I ruined isn't the only one.
okay, so I'm behind. I need to catch up.
Well, you get there when you get there, right?
You're right.
Let's shuffle these. We're gonna shuffle these up. Our deep question: do you believe in soulmates?
Ooh. Yes. Do I believe we all acquire our soulmates? No.
Hmm.
Um, just for the simple matter of the numbers game. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people. I'm from Lake Charles. They meet their girlfriend, they marry their girlfriend from Lake Charles. And in some cases, that could be, you know what I mean? But I think it's more people choose their partners because marriage is an economic contract. You know what I'm saying? And I think people choose off of that. As opposed to how they actually feel or a soul tie. You know what I mean? Because your soulmate's probably somewhere in Australia or you know what I'm saying? Like, and you'll never know because you've never been able to get that far in life.
Mm,
Most people get tied down in their early 20s or teens or you know what I'm saying? So I think we kill our chances of actually being open to finding a soulmate. But I do think they exist. I just don't think many people find them.
okay. I remember being 16 or 17 with my first boyfriend, and we were hanging out in his kitchen, and his mom was hanging out with us, and she goes, I met my husband when I was 17 and I married him at 18. I'm like, you don't think that that's what's gonna happen, right?
But for the sake of the marriage, they say they're soulmates. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like, okay, not gonna argue with you, but
But then
okay.
there are people like my little sister married her high school sweetheart, and that's incredible. And I'm taking a very different path through life. Um, but I think that's really cool because I have a totally different way of thinking of soulmates. So I think that they can be romantic. I think that a soulmate can show up as like that ultimate complementary partner. But I also believe that, like, for example, several of my past relationships I believe to be soulmates. My ex-husband in particular, who it was not a good situation, but there was so much learning and growth that came out of it, that to look at that for me as anything other than divine is just like, no, that didn't happen just by coincidence. I think that lovers can be soulmates. I think your best friends can be soulmates.
There's that aspect too that we didn't even touch on, you know.
Yeah.
Is we have this fascination that's supposed to be a romantic thing, and it's like, and then there's also the other side of it where aren't we all supposed to be whole and complete by ourselves? You know what I mean? I think that's especially Americanized, and I know it goes beyond there because they were arranged marriages for the purpose of financial stability or your status or whatever you may have. But I think here we really just want that American dream. You know what I mean? Mom, dad, kids. You know, when and it's catching up to us. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be independent. You're supposed to be whole and love yourself before you're actually able to love anyone else adequately. So you know, I think we miss a lot, and there's a lot of hypocrisy about love.
Right. I think also the traditional stance on soulmates is that in addition to it being romantic, it needs to be forever. No kinks, no, no 3-week break where you hate each other and like try to do stuff with other people.
Breaks are dangerous.
Breaks are very dangerous. Going back to Friends, that was a major issue for Ross and Rachel. But I think traditionally it had to be romantic. It had to last forever. And it very much was boxed into how we view the less healthy forms of relationship. And not to say that marriage isn't beautiful. I hope to remarry someday. But when it is heavily based on conditional love, you meet this need for me, I meet this need for you, and maybe we don't even go about it in a healthy way. Maybe it's kind of like covert manipulation or codependency. And I think it really takes two very ready people to come into it and say, I know I'm not perfect. I know you're not perfect. I know that I'll need to love myself deeply before I can love another deeply. But while I'm on the way to that, I'm still committed to growing. And so now as I'm dating in my 30s, that's what I'm looking for. So
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, growth is definitely, you know, a major important thing with me, just beyond just like, you know, romantically, but in friends. You know what I mean? Sometimes I distance myself from people. And a lot of times guys, I don't have to check in all the time, you know what I mean? But if things are feeling stagnant or I'm trying to get to another plateau, then often I have to. You know what I mean? I can't have those type of energies weighing me down. So I feel like with relationships, people look for somebody who they can grow with, but not always the most compatible person. You know what I mean? And I feel like we stub our toe with that a lot. When you look for your homeboys, you're not looking for somebody that, oh, I can grow with this guy, and you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, we're friends, we get along, and that's it. And yeah, there's a lot of toxic manipulation and I FOMO. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people were like, yeah, but she's so fine, and you know, or she's so smart, or she has it together. So let me just go ahead and jump in the boat. When it's like, maybe it's not time for you to board. maybe you need to, you know, watch the sea a little more. And if she's there, she'll be there. But you know, we only get so long. People are afraid of missing out. So
Right on.
and that leads us into divorce now.
And that leads us to our next question on divorce. No, I'm kidding. There's no questions about divorce in here, I promise. This is a fun one.
Okay.
What's your most recent embarrassing moment?
Ooh. Hmm. I'm not really sure. I was trying to think about this one. I guess I don't really. Of course, I get embarrassed. It's human. But the way I react to it, I guess, leaves a stain in my mind that I'm not that embarrassed about it. You know what I mean? Because most times it'll be something natural, or a mistake or something, and I just laugh it off. And even if I feel anxiety in the moment, then I'll be like, nah, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. Or if I make a big deal of it, everybody around is always, graciously like, it's not a big deal. But let me think of something.
Thank God for those people.
Yeah, I know. We took a boat out this past weekend. We went to Gulf Shores, took a boat out, and we pulled up on my side. I don't know if that's starboard or I don't know boats well, but I wasn't expecting to have to dock the boat. So I was just like chilling, laid back, like watching the sun, and the boat was about to run into the dock, and I was like, oh, let me, yeah. So like everybody was just
known to do that.
Yeah, I know everybody was just assuming that I knew I needed to stand up and catch the pier, but I was like, I was for sure they would do. You know what I mean? Like
you were enjoying.
I was like Jazz, and I was like, wait, I'm sorry, almost didn't make it. We almost crashed, so that was a little embarrassing.
I've had a couple, but a lighter moment that's not quite as heavy. I had straightened my teeth. I did a Smile Direct retainer on my bottom teeth. So if you go back and you watch my older videos, you'll see how janky they were. But I had straightened my teeth and I was like, let me get them whitened. So I had an at-home kit that I was using, and they sent the retainers with it's called a smile stretcher. So it's like a double fish hook.
Oh yeah.
It opens up your mouth like that. But I'm allergic to the teeth whitening gel. So I'm like, let me put this in my mouth and then I won't have an allergic reaction. So I have my mouth stretched out. I look like a baboon. And so we're looking at the front door, and the whatever that's called, the shade was rolled up. And our UPS delivery guy comes by with a package, and he drops it on the doorstep. And I was sitting, this is my spot. So where you're sitting at the corner of the two couches, it's the cozy spot.
Yeah, it's the best.
So that's where I always sit. And I was just screwing around on my phone or whatever I happened to be doing. But I had my whole mouth stretched out, and we made eye contact. And he looked startled. Rightfully so. I looked terrifying. But it was so funny. And there's nothing you can do to be like, let me run over and explain what was going on like that.
Yeah, now your mouth was
stared into his brain and be like, I don't know what happened this morning, but this woman, she was so scary looking.
I'm sure they come across some interesting things all day long, probably.
Yeah, we had the dog run out one day and get in the truck with someone. I was freaking out. I'm glad my roommate was home for that, because she's a lot better with.
That sounds like something my huskies would do.
So how old are the huskies?
3 years and 4 months.
Oh, so they're babies.
Yeah, puppies.
Oh, that's sweet. All right, Jordan. Who are 3 people that inspire you, and why?
Andre 3000.
Okay.
Because I think he did it on a level and a fullness as far as being a rapper, and being at the front of the line for the South, definitely. But even having a celebrity hook up and then having a child, and that was one of the first celebrity kids I knew of was 7. Him and Erykah Badu, shout out. Oh. So definitely Andre. And then coasting through it, retiring, coming back when he wants to, not when he needs it but when he wants to, you know what I mean? And now he just walks around and plays flutes in Starbucks, and and it's that's that's the mission. That's the goal, is to be so rich and successful that nothing can bother me. You know what I mean? There's no tangible thing that can throw me off my course, because I've done it. It's definitely him.
That's awesome. Where is he from?
Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah, Georgia.
Right on.
Maybe not Atlanta, but Georgia definitely.
Okay.
Um, Let me see. Two more. Two more. Hmm. This is tough.
It is tough. I actually hate receiving questions like this. I'm like, I don't know anyone.
Yeah, I know. I'm like drawing blank. I'm like, let me think. And I don't want to pick anybody silly, because it would be a waste.
You're gonna be committed.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
I
on
gotta explain it.
video. Yeah.
It's a double part question too. And why? It's like one of those paragraph essays.
Yeah. All right. Choose one more, and if you happen to happen upon a different one, then we'll include it.
Okay. Hmm. Master P, another rapper. I'm trying to think of not just all rappers. I don't want to, but Master P, another person, and close to home, obviously. So that's always great. But he was a NBA player. He owns businesses.
What?
Yes.
He was an NBA player?
Yeah.
For who?
I don't remember which team, but he definitely made it on
Stop
and played.
it.
Yeah. And he switched roles. You know what I mean? He did the rap from the ground up, and then once that didn't suit him anymore, he said okay, and he switched gears, and now he's like an ultimate entrepreneur. Successful. Kids are taken care of. Like that's again goals. And then I want to say Michael Jordan, because as a kid, Jordan. I didn't play basketball, but another very successful black man, even though he gets a lot of flack and I don't agree with everything he did, but multi-talented, you know what I mean? Able to put one thing down and pick the next up and keep it stride like nothing happened. So definitely, or let's take Michael Jordan back. Will Smith. Will Smith. But I guess they all share the versatility in their success. They're able to switch lanes and accomplish everything that they set out to do. You know what I mean? Without feeling like, oh, but I'm a rapper, I have to be, or oh, I'm an actor, I can't. They do it flawlessly. So there you go.
Yeah.
Strong three, I think.
Yeah, that is a strong three. I also appreciate the reasons that you gave, because I think being able to stay ambitious as you do beginner type things is really important and very inspiring. Um, the one that's springing to mind, by the way, I noticed you chose all men. I'm going to choose a woman. Um, Hedy Lamar.
Hedy Lamar. Never heard of her.
Hedy Lamar. I'm going to get all the facts wrong, so you're just going to have to Google this after I say it and fact check me. But Hedy Lamar has long since passed away, but she was a great, I believe, Austrian beauty, and helped contribute to the creation of like Sonar, but was also a model and an actress. And she did this whole long nude movie. And she was just kind of a badass. I believe she was also some kind of spy.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it's just like brilliant, but also beautiful, and like so able to walk multiple tightropes that I really look up to her, even though I know apparently nothing about her. Her biography is on my list. I also have a couple of other interesting biographies and autobiographies that I want to read. Among them, Stanley Tucci has a new one coming out, where he's basically like tasting all of the foods from his Italian life as an Italian. I also really appreciate the contributions of Jane Goodall.
Okay, I know who Jane Goodall is.
Yeah. Yeah, she has a ton of autobiographies. I read through a window, and she was a very, very lovely person. I appreciate naturalists and people that are in tune with and respectful of the environment. I think that I think our contributions matter, and so some people look at gestures such as like declining a plastic straw as being like something that couldn't possibly matter. Everything matters. Your
Yeah.
integrity always
Yeah.
matters.
Yes, it
So
does.
that's cool. I'm gonna let you choose the next one. Do you want to? I'll pass them this way, and you
Okay.
can choose anyone you want. You can look at them if you want. I have no rules.
Did you have any surprises in your musical journey, turning points, or time that you wanted to quit? Hmm. Yes. I was surprised at everybody that I've met, all the icons and famous people. I think just about everybody. I was surprised to see who they actually were, what character flaws they had, what was a facade and what wasn't. Um, just have that insight on the game. That was shocking every time, over and over and over again. Um, Thankfully, I don't get starstruck anymore, but just seeing people for who they are beyond the costume, you know what I mean, beyond the face that gets put on to make money, and it's like, wow, okay, because we make them up to be so big, like giants, and they're really just people. They're just people. So that's always shocking to me.
I have, wait, before you continue, I have a follow-up question. Was there anyone that you went total fangirl, fanboy over when you met them?
Hmm. Hmm. Kendrick Lamar was probably like the first. That was the first concert that I remember. I went to a Jasmine Sullivan concert when I was younger, but that didn't count. I didn't meet her. But Kendrick, yeah, I was like out of my mind, eyes wide open, and it was at the varsity, so we were like up front.
Oh, it's here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we were like right in front, and whatever state of mind I was in, I didn't. This was my first concert, and it didn't feel natural to me to praise somebody. And he's like, "Everybody hands up," and everybody had their hands up, and I'm looking around like, it's feeling kind of churchy. I don't know. And he was just staring at me like, "Dude, you could go to the back." But I met him after, and the whole time I was just like, because I never really saw him. I listened to his music. And that was in like LimeWire days. So you just download a bunch of stuff and you don't really get the whole discography or the background. And I wasn't a music video head. So I never really knew what he looked like. And he's like 5'0". And I was like, "You just a little hood dude." And he was like, "Yeah, if you could write an essay at LSU, you can do this." And so I was like, "Okay, yeah." And then Boosie Collins, which a varsity show again.
He's also local,
No, not
right?
Boosie, not
Oh.
Torrance Hatch, not Boosie. But Boosie Collins, Parliament, Flashlight.
I don't know anyone. I don't know
Our
any
parents' music
songs.
is way beyond my time, or ahead of my time. But
to be fair, my parents are way older
well,
than
yeah,
yours.
yeah. But so yeah, I didn't expect to enjoy it as much, and the name didn't register with me. But this old sushi chef, he was a white guy with dreads, and he had an Asian wife, and we were on the elevator leaving work, and it was just quiet, and he was like, "Hey, there's a Boosie Collins concert, go check it out." And he gave me the money to buy the ticket, and I was like, "I'm not gonna say no." You know what I mean? So I went, and then I realized, oh my God, like this is the music I grew up listening to with my parents. I was like, wow. And then he came in the crowd and hugged me. And so that whole thing is like the funk. So I say Boosie Collins blessed me with the funk. Because for whatever reason, he came straight to me and just hugged me. And then he went back to the crowd. And it was one of the best shows I've ever really seen production wise. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were like, "All right, we getting on the mothership." And it was backup singers in like full, they had the spaceship domes on. And I was like, whoa, this is a show. This isn't just like somebody coming in and rap. This is like a show. Um, and that was really early in my career too. So those two really, yeah, I was like just blown away. Like I couldn't believe what was happening. Everybody else, it was like more of antics, more me scheming. Like, how can I get back there and meet that person? How can I, you know what I mean?
That's so serendipitous. What an awesome story. I'm gonna feel foolish when I look up Boosie Collins and I and I know the music.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure everybody has. Okay, turning points. Manifesting. So first of all, just being able to go from writing and then recording and being successful at that. Well, I actually wrote and like freestyle, did all that for a long time, and then doing open mics, and then doing open mics without the shaky knees, and then recording and having, okay, I'm used to my voice now, and then having something that potentially seemed like a hit at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm geared up, I'm ready to go. Um, and then meeting all these people and manifesting all these things and being able to shake all these hands and doing things that those around me, more successful, less successful, aren't able to accomplish, for whatever the reason may be. Not that I'm, more advanced than somebody else. I just realized I could unlock that. You know what I mean? There's no physical barrier stopping me from going touch Kanye's. So I'm gonna go, and those are always turning points every time, every single time. I'm like, okay. And times I want to quit, often. Oftentimes I'm like, is this really for me? Is this what I really want to do in the climate and area that we are, this region of rap music? It's just doesn't really align with me. And sometimes I dip into it and sometimes I dip back out because it's a part of life. You know what I mean? I do parlay with these people. They are around me, you know what I'm saying? So, but is it the message that I want to put out is often what makes me think maybe I should just, fall back and figure out myself before just putting out senseless nonsense. But then it's like at this point, it's if you stop creating, there's no chance. You know what I mean? There's no, so you can't say your goal is to get there if you aren't actively taking the steps to do it. Um, and I, also meditating on things and not just dropping everything. And but I'm learning that. But yeah, I often contemplate quitting, more so now than in the starting blocks. It was like nothing could stop me, and it seemed so much more impossible back then. But I was like, no, absolutely not. And I just wasn't hearing it. Now there's everybody in my ear saying, go, go, go. I'm like, wait, maybe I'm not ready. Just hold on. You know what I mean? I'll do it in my own time. Which, it's just funny to see how it flipped. I never really thought about that. But yeah, back then you couldn't stop me. I was so bullheaded. I was like, yeah. And now I'm like, maybe I don't need to drop an album every year. Maybe I don't need to, you know what I mean? Do every show. Because there was a time when I think 2017, 2018, maybe, I probably did close to 120 shows. Just, grabbing every opportunity. Yep, 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 yep. And now I'm like, man, we did all that, so I don't have to now. Not only take the big opportunities.
Yay. I think it also requires some of that bullheadedness to get started, because in the beginning, I noticed for me, I had to stop telling people what I was up to, or because, they have their own fears. They have their own fears and they love you and they want to protect you. And sometimes their protection and their love sounds like trying to knock you down and say like, oh, what if this terrible thing happens? It's like, well, I hope it doesn't. But I was dealing with so much of my own fears about failure and worthiness and getting started and not knowing what the hell I'm doing, which is every day still. Every day still. But it was too much to try and digest my own fear and then digest other people's fears. So I think that getting into your bull mind and just going forward with it is really valuable in the beginning.
That's an important lesson too. And I was so stubborn because I'd get excited about everything and I want to tell the world and I want to put it out there and put it on social media. But what I didn't realize is when you do that, yeah, you invite everybody else's projections. And not saying everybody wants to see you fail, but like you said, some people don't want to see you. You know what I mean? They don't want to see you scrape your knee. So they're like, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't. And even if they don't voice it, that thought is a lot of energy. So, a whole world of people not worrying about what you're doing and you being like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it is a lot better for your case than, all the people in your circle being like, I hope he doesn't mess up. Oh, I hope he doesn't. And you being like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Now you're pulling a whole sled of people's doubts with your own. You know what I mean? So I had to learn to just be quiet and let it manifest. And then take the congratulations with, being humble, being modest, and being like, thank you. Because man, I had to go through that too. I was quiet, and then things would come to pass, and then I'd be like, see what I did. Look at what I did. It's so great. And now I'm just like, thank you. I'm glad you acknowledged it. I'm glad you noticed. Thank you. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be better.
Right. Plus, there's a good bit that falls through for people in entertainment, for entrepreneurs. I know this week I was I'm dating an amazing man, and I was complaining to him that like I had four things just fall through all on the same day. And I was just so trying to manage my frustration and trying to manage my mindset around them, and to really broaden to the fact that like, all right, so far most everything has been a huge blessing when it didn't work out. And I was just, because there were so many things that came at me all at once, I was having trouble making that switch. And he and I had like a very valuable conversation on entrepreneurship and setting up, um, putting different protocols in place to make sure that my time is valued and respected, and highlighting things that you don't know until all of a sudden you know them. Like, for example, all right, you want me to show up such and such date? Here's my invoice for the deposit, and you can reserve the 4-hour slot or the 3-day slot or whatever it is. And so you've probably gone through the same thing of like,
Gotta get
sometimes you just don't even know.
Gotta get a deposit. I learned that early.
You want to take people at their word, and sometimes they don't know the weight that their words are carrying. Like you said, thoughts can carry weight, and they can be very sticky.
I guess you could think of it like one of those, I don't know what you call it, a ping pong table, not a ping pong table horizontally, but with the pegs in it, and you drop something, and it has to go through all
pinball.
Not pinball. Pinball is like when you're hitting the sides, and it's like a pegboard, a big pegboard, and you drop a little circular object, and it'll go clink, 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 but you don't know where it'll end up at the bottom.
Okay.
Because it takes all these different channels, and there's so many different possibilities. And I think about opportunities like that, because they have to go. It has to pass through so many hands. So an embarrassing moment was a lot of things that fell through that I ran my mouth about, and then they fell through. Shout out Smooth Cat. Me and my homie Smooth Cat have opened for incredible people, incredible artists. But we were supposed to open for Erykah Badu. And I told the whole world, I was like, Erykah Badu, and it fell through. And then I had people asking, like, hey, when's that show? Some were smug, like, and some were just like actually wanted to support. And then I had to be like, yeah, it fell through. It's not happening. So shout out Erykah. If you see this, Erykah Badu.
We'll tag her in it.
Yeah, I'll still love to open up for you. But yeah, I don't think people realize how many different channels things have to go through when you're dealing with things on a bigger level than yourself. Because everybody's manifesting something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's working, and those gears are grinding, and there's so many different levels. Even now we're on a physical realm right now, but there's a spiritual realm where things are taking place. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think when we open our mouths prematurely, we realize just how much is at stake. And it's a lot like a plant too. The getting the roots in the ground is the hardest part. Once the roots are growing, even though you can't see the little seedling going through the dirt, it's pushing, but you can't see it. You know what I mean? And then I guess that's a good one. Because then once it blooms, it's hard to keep those petals there. It's hard to keep those petals there, and they all have to fall off eventually. Okay, I'm on a tangent. Okay.
We went deep with that one. What's the Robert Frost quote? Something about the trees are about to show us how beautiful it is to let the dead things go. I misquote everyone. I think it's Robert Frost, and I think that's the quote.
I have not read Robert Frost since high school, probably, but that was amazing. that weighed heavy. Wow.
Do you have a favorite poet?
Edgar Allan Poe would be so cliche, but I think so. And I feel I feel like such a simp. Is it Rupi Kapoor?
Rupi Kaur.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it,
Car. I
but
think
yeah.
it's car.
And I get a lot of flack for that because people are like, "That's what you read? You read?" Yes, poetry is beautiful. Okay,
Poetry is beautiful. All
and I'd
music.
rather have a woman's insight. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I'd rather see the world through somebody else's view than, I could listen to Tupac all day, but I know what that poetry sounds like.
Which is also really incredible poetry. I was a public school librarian before I moved here, and my teaching assistant was a poet. And she planned this like series of lessons for the kids. I was inner city in New Jersey, in East Orange, which is where Whitney Houston hails from. And she put together this poetry lesson for the kids, and it just like it blew their minds, it blew my mind. It was amazing. So Nicole Williams, if you're watching this, thank you for being my library assistant. I could never have done it without you. That was my first year teaching, and I'm like, I don't know anything. Um, let's. Are you a movie person? I know you said that you used to have trouble focusing. I am not a movie person. I know zero movies.
I I have a lot of friends that are like super big, like they'll start quoting something, immediately know where it's from, and then so I always feel left out on those. But and then when I get asked this question, like just off the bat, off the top of my head, randomly at work or something, I'm like, oh yeah, I love that and this, and but when I'm asked, I'm always like, I'm so indecisive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Um, Wait, what was?
I was just curious because I wrote this one, which is kind of difficult. If
If
I wrote it
life
and I'm
were a
like, I don't know
movie.
any movies, so this would never fly for me.
If life were a movie, which movie would it be? It would be Jazzy B, starring Jordan LaVergne. There's so many. I guess for the most part, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
not a fan.
You don't like Johnny Depp? What?
I like Johnny Depp. I like him plenty. I love doing Pirates of the Caribbean. I can do the eyeliner all day long. And that gross long hair and the weird persona.
Arr.
Yeah, that's like, yeah. But I did not like him in that.
No.
Mm-mm.
I feel like that was a lot of my start, was just fumbling through, trying things, doing things I shouldn't have been doing, you know what I mean? Having this blurred vision, but still making it work, just off of pure faith and determination, and being like, yes, doesn't matter what's what the situation is, the outcome is going to be what I predict it to be, because I'm all powerful. But he just never got too deterred. He was never like, all right, this is too much. He was always just like, I'll figure it out. We'll do some more things and figure it out. But so yeah, more so the chaos, the craziness of how things just work out. Fear and Loathing, and I guess I want to say Pursuit of Happiness, just because the name is cool, but more so 7 Pounds, because I really feel like I give a lot, and it may be the death of me, but as long as I am doing good upon the earth and leaving a good mark, then it doesn't really bother me, because we all gotta go. I'd rather spend my days making people happy and healthy than making a whole lot of money or becoming famous, or you know what I mean. And that's just that route. And then maybe Space Jam, maybe a little bit of Space Jam.
That is on my recently played Pandora list. Yep. They have the license to play like 4 songs off of the Space Jam album.
Welcome,
and I listened to all 4.
Space Jam.
Yeah, it's so good. And you touched on the mark that you want to leave. I know you do quite a bit of work with our youngsters in Baton Rouge. What is the mark that you hope to leave on our local community?
I think right now it's more so of just not, there's no atypical, or there's no stereotype that you have to fit in. You know what I mean? Just because you're a rapper, just because you're a black guy, just because you have an afro, just because you do A, B, and C, there is no hierarchy of, oh, well, you have to do this then. And I feel like that is, I know there's a lot of lost youth who are trying to find themselves and discouraged because they may not have been raised in a household where people like anime, or they may not eat the same things as their friends, or they, you know what I mean? And I just want people to understand that there's no boundary, there's no set way to be in life. There's just being. And you just be the best you can be. And that's it. And you enjoy it thoroughly. Live as many, and I told you this, your book should be filled. You know what I mean? You should live as many lives, in my opinion, as you can. You know what I mean? Even a college professor, a poet, like you, that is who I envy, are the people that are like, yeah, you know, 35 and I've done 10 things already. I've completed this. Like, um, because that reminds me of a good book. It's a journey, you know what I mean? You start
Mm.
as this, feeble character, and then you grow, and by the end, like Hercules, he was all
Mm-hmm.
scrawny and stuff, but by the end there was nothing that could test him, because he was like, man, I've accomplished all of this, I've overcome all of this, what's next? I can do anything, basically,
Yeah. The hero's journey.
yeah.
Or if you're into tarot cards, I love the tarot. The zero, the very first card is the Fool. And the Fool goes on a journey through the major arcana and has to do introspection and go on different quests, which kind of makes it sound like Dungeons and Dragons. But the Fool goes through life and acquires everything that they need to reach enlightenment. And so it's kind of he's a seed, but also within him or her um is everything, the entire universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All you need is there.
Yes. Um cool. Let's finish with this question. So I feel like we're doing good. I feel like I know you. This one is what is one thing that you believe that you don't think anyone else believes?
Hmm. What is something I believe that I don't think anyone else believes? That's hard, because there's a theory that nothing that you've thought or said hasn't been thought or said before.
Ooh.
Um, but maybe I'll be a narcissist and say that there's God energy in all of us. We are. I like to think of it as source is a divine, omniscient being, of course. Maybe he's a little bored. Maybe he or she is a little bored. So, they want to also experience life in every facet possible. You know what I mean? And they just body jump, or for the sake of, something we can grasp. You know what I mean? You never know when you'll come across, what if God was one of us? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he wanted to be homeless today. Maybe today he wanted to be Kanye. Maybe, you know what I mean? But that power of manifestation, I feel like people don't really understand how tangible it is, how you can really affect the world you live in. And it's all over the place. Even the Bible says life and death is in the power of the tongue. Um, you really speak it into existence if you believe it and speak it, and you know and there's science that backs it now. You can put terrible negative messages on a water bottle, or scream at a water bottle, and the water molecules will become all obscure, and you can praise and write positive messages on the other bottle, and they will be symmetrical, at peace. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think as many people as should believe it. I'm not saying no, I'm the only person that believes this, but I think there's God in all of us, literally every single. It doesn't matter from scum of the earth to the highest regal, most noble person. I think there's a bit of God in all of us. It's how attuned you are to it in the universe that's around you. And then you're really, once you realize, oh, I'm in the driver's seat, like I'm in this thing, then it's fun. Then it's like, all right, let's push it. Let's do 90 then. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm not trying to do 200. I don't want to get to the end too fast.
Yeah. I feel that. I am in a really interesting course right now where we're basically diving into all of the things in our lives that we think are not good for us, all of the things that like make us uncomfortable, or things that we say that we dislike, such as like being broke or being in like shitty relationships or anything like that. And we look around for different ways to enjoy the experience. And the beginnings of some of the meditations from the woman who guides it, whose name is Carolyn Elliott. And her book is Existential Kink. But it's basically like, imagine that God, goddess, that force became bored and just wanted to have experiences. They're not worried about if it feels good or if it feels bad, or if it's viewed as good or if it's viewed as bad, because that's a very narrow human mental construct and a very narrow limited experience that doesn't exist from like those high lofty echelons.
Right. That's very human.
Yes, it's very human of us. And she ponders the question in one of the meditations. It's like, why would this happen? Because it's interesting. And I think that curiosity is the secret sauce for moving out of judgment.
I pray that God doesn't smite me for this, but I think God is great, because he created all these things, or she, or whatever you may believe, but they came to be out of boredom. Like, because it's interesting. What else would lead to, why would you just wake up one day and be like, okay, yeah. Or whatever you believe the beginning origin story is, something had to kick it all off. But I definitely think God, that source energy is probably very bland and bored. And they're trying to experience a lot.
A bored kid with a magnifying glass, which is kind of a morbid way to look at it. But Alan Watt also has some very eloquent words to say about it. Yeah. And his thing is similar. It's like, imagine every night that, and he has the accent, imagine every night that you had the same dream. And then one day you decide that, well, maybe I don't want to be rich and famous and go on the roller coaster. And maybe, and it is really interesting to, I have an interesting relationship. I brought up the tarot before, but I have an interesting relationship with the devil card. Because I have a belief that all of your tormentors are your mentors. And I don't mean that in like some kind of far out groovy hidden, whoops. I'm hitting into the microphone and it's like unplugging itself.
Too much sauce.
Too much sauce. Let me just make sure it's in. But yeah. Okay. I have a belief that what we view as the devil and adversity and anything that we kind of have shafted as something bad or wrong are the most fascinating and effective stimuli for our growth. And right now, like especially in different spiritual communities, I know a little bit of the New Age community. I like them, whatever. I'll get down with all the weird stuff. But there's this belief where it's like, you don't need to go through trial and hardship, blah, 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 which is fine. And like, sure, you don't have to, but like, that's been a really tried and true method for getting us to grow. I know for me personally, the biggest kick in the ass that I had for getting myself unstuck and going out and living the happiest, most fulfilled life I could possibly live was rock bottom. Like, rock bottom is fucking awesome because it sucks.
Yeah, that pressure will that pressure will make you be like, all right, I got to do something.
Yeah.
Something's got to work. Yeah.
Yeah. The pressure, you know, pressure is the only thing that turns the coal into the diamond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's my unpopular thought. I guess my unpopular thought is I like the devil.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense because it's human for us to condemn. And then the hypocrisy in Christianity is, we're supposed to be Christ-like. Well, God doesn't judge until he is the judge. And, I mean, and you could flip it on to say it a million times, but at the end of the day, it's the things that we fear. So we put these shelters up and, I think the backwater towns, and I go there and they see me and they're like, oh, it's a weird guy. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, what are you doing here? Like, I just went to Alabama and then I went to Arkansas earlier this year. So that was an experience, but there's not too much diversity there. But I wasn't gawked at or, what I mean? I didn't receive any hate. There was only curiosity and then intriguedness. Like they were intrigued and happy to be around me, what I mean? And happy that, oh, I'm glad you came shop with me. I'm glad you came to this store. I'm glad, what I mean? And it wasn't these things that people demonize. A lot of times we're taught them. And yeah, once you put it right in front of your face, you realize this isn't so bad. This isn't that scary. This isn't that big of a thing. So why was I afraid of it so long? You know what I mean? I had to go through that a lot with the New Age religion and what I mean, crystals and tarot cards, and people are like, you're doing hoodoo voodoo. And I'm like, we've been doing hoodoo voodoo for a long time. You need to tap in with your roots. There's a reason why things aren't working out, But yeah.
I think it's really interesting that as because I don't have a lot of shared interests with some of the things that are being debated on social media. I'm trying to purify this
Tread
idea
lightly.
as it comes off. Yeah. I'm trying to tread lightly. But I don't have a deep interest in taking sides. My curiosity is understanding people and looking at perspectives, and lots of them I don't agree with, but I realize that every single person, regardless of their level of ignorance or their social conditioning or any of the other influences that are guiding them to make the choices that they're making or parrot the opinions that they have, whether they're really genuine or just kind of stuff that they were raised with, they are doing it exclusively because they desire deeply to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing what they were taught is good.
Mm-hmm.
And it just it makes it really easy for me to look at folks like that and to really genuinely appreciate and love them. And they could be talking some shit, but they're doing it with the intention and the desire of being good. And so even if I don't line up with it, even if it's something that I think is horse shit, I can see them for where they are and accept that people don't change and evolve overnight. It's not to ask someone to be different in precisely the way that you need them to be different for your comfort or your healing.
Ludicrous. Crazy.
It's not, yeah, it's not going to work out for you well. And that's not to say that you can't have a really beautiful healing container. It probably won't come through the avenue of your arch nemesis in the short term.
Right.
But maybe in the long term, because we love the devil card.
Yeah. I like that though. And I agree, I try not to fault people for their ignorance or their standpoints because I have the knowledge, or I think I have the knowledge, because nobody is really fully equipped. You know what I mean? That may put me in a position to be wrong because now I'm judging, or I'm when just that interaction with them of me being open-hearted or open-minded or open-ended and being like, okay, there is no wrong or right. And that's so human of us to be like, well, this isn't. And it's like, no, it's not their fault they were raised this way. It's not their fault they lack the knowledge. And even if it is, that's their right. They have a choice. They have willpower just like everyone else. So am I higher or more mighty of a being because I chose to equip myself or have this neutral standpoint? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? I've been through that out the window, and I try to, and I have to often remind myself, especially when I'm home, when I'm back home. But like in New York or something, oh man, it's out the window because, and I see it more on myself when I'm like, oh, this person is white, and then they open their mouth and they're Czechoslovakian, and I'm like, sorry. Or people approach me and are like, oh, you Dominican, you Puerto Rican, and I'm like, mm-mm. Until I opened my mouth and I had the grills when I was in New York. As soon as I opened my mouth and I had grills in, they were like, oh, you are not, you're not from here. Let me show you around, buddy. And it was all love. But, just boxing people, man. We tend to do that so much. Put people in boxes, color lines, like wrong, right, just not. And life just isn't that simple. It's always more complex. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the desire to make things black and white it's a time saver, and I also think that when we are disconnected from our intuition and our deep knowing, having those boxes set up so that the mind can do the work instead of our hearts, or um, I think that that's like a major time saver, um, because that's we if we aren't able to tap our intuition, it's because we haven't had enough safety. But because we haven't had enough safety, we can't we can't tap in and get that higher guidance. So we needed a system, and the system has been good bin, bad bin. And so I'm able to stay in my mind in this landscape that I know pretty well, because it's all automated. We take that programming from age 0 to age 7, and that's just what it is. But I feel like as people come to heal their nervous system and are able to be more in their bodies and more trusting of their intuition and more broadened to their projections and their preconceptions, that's when things change, and we don't go so quickly for like the black and white thinking. And I'm actually very excited to see that happening on a broad scale now.
Oh yeah, it's mind blowing to witness, just how radical things are moving now. It's like that ball started rolling in the '90s, and now it's like, whoa. You know what I mean? I remember being a kid and watching the Jetsons and Xenon, and now that's all real. That was totally fiction back then. Now it's all real, and it's like, whoa, okay. Things are moving at a pace where Louisiana's probably about to legalize weed. You know what I mean? Like, and just 5 years ago, we were like, yeah, maybe in 20 years. But no, we're here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then I to touch on what you said before that, yeah, I think people need to slow down, especially in the larger matters. I was with a guy and he was handling a lot of money things, buying real estate, doing this. And somebody approached him about something that was very profitable for him, and it seemed as though he had nothing but to gain, And he said, "I'm gonna meditate on it," and that sat with me for the longest. I was like, "What?" But he had trust in himself and in his intuition, and he said, if it was a simple yes or no, I would have said yes or no, like I did everything else. But it didn't seem like that. And it's not about the amount of money, because whether I gain or lose from it, that's going to happen. That'll, if I'm gaining, that'll be there. Whether I wait a week, a month, 10, you know what I mean? Them putting pressure behind it is making me feel like maybe not. But he said, let me meditate on it. Let me see where my heart is at, not my yes or no box. Let me see where my heart is at and why I'm feeling so iffy about this. I was like, damn. You know what I mean? In a world where everybody's like, let me get to it, let me do that, I gotta go. He was like, nah, we have time, and if we don't, it wasn't meant.
Yeah.
And I realized that what's written is written. You can change it and alter it bit by bit, piece by piece, and it may change the outcome at the end in totality, but for the most part, it's already in your path. It's already in the stars. You know what I mean? So it does away with a lot of my doubt, I think, right now where I'm at. I'm just like, okay, listen to yourself. Yes.
I also like the idea of like social media and video being like living time capsules. So like if we went back 10 years, because Facebook came out when I was a freshman in college, and that was probably 15 years ago, maybe a little more. But I know if I went back to that, I'd be like, oh,
Cringe.
ew,
So
I
cringy.
can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I was saying stuff like that. And like, and we would see quite a bit of ignorance in
Facebook has no shame either. They throw it right back in your face.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
8 years
Remember
ago?
when you said this?
Remember when you thought this is cool? It's like me with platinum blonde hair. I'm like, oh
yeah,
no.
or like me with a snarky, mean attitude. Oh.
But yeah, that is why I like Instagram, because it's just a
Mhm.
snapshot. And my producer got on me for the longest. It's like, Jess, you have got to archive this. Before archives, he put me on the archives. I didn't know about archives. It's the coolest thing now. It's like saving your photo book, but you tuck it in a place where nobody else can see it. Because for the longest, I was like, I don't want to delete it, man. It's memories. You know what I mean? I want people to be able to see the growth that took place. But yeah, he was like, nah. He wasn't having it. He was like, this is bad marketing. Like, you need to.
I mean, I think there's a place for it. Like,
yeah, now I have it all archived. So, I can go back and view it whenever I please.
You're going to have to leak bits of it and be like,
Sometimes I do.
Look
Sometimes
at how much I've grown.
Little throwbacks, like, here you go. But yeah, no, I do like that time capsule thing. When I was a kid, that was the coolest thing to me. And I'm kind of upset with myself now that I haven't done one, like an actual tangible physical one, because just in the past decade, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? I watched Game Boys grow, like it's crazy. If I could dig up my old Game Boy, I would be so happy right now.
That needs to be one of my interview questions. What 5 things would you put in your time capsule today?
Today, what would I put? Some designer clothes.
Who? Which designer?
Maybe this.
Okay, thank you.
We back?
Oh my God.
Did it say?
I'm very curious to see. Well, it says, I don't know. I hope so.
Let's do it all again. Run it back. I'm used to that. I'm used to being like, oh, I missed a word. Let me get it again.
Actually, I'm recording a course right now, and like I'll get 10 minutes in, and I'm like, I couldn't just possibly cut out this one 10-second clip that I don't like. It's like, no, I have to spend the whole afternoon
I can do it better.
recording it.
I can do it better.
All right, so you're sticking the Erykah Badu hoodie in there.
Chinatown Market, yeah. Just because it's designers. This is all the rage right now. And I like to see that the fashion, how it comes back in style, and so I do that. I would probably put my grills in there because that's fashion again. I would probably put some tryptamines of some sort, just for
What's a tryptamine?
So like LSD or psilocybin or something like that. It probably wouldn't be good if I open it, but it would be interesting to be like, oh, this is where you were at. Okay.
50 years, you're like, oh, I put a Tylenol in here. How thoughtful. I knew I would need it.
Oh, the headaches. Maybe a cell phone or something. You know what I mean? I want to say a book, but tangible books just aren't that much for the mass majority. People aren't, you know what I'm saying? So maybe a cell phone, but if it doesn't work, then it doesn't hold the same weight. So maybe I'd like print out all of my archive pictures from Instagram and make a photo album and put it in there.
The photo album of embarrassment.
I think I got one more thing. Tough. I don't want to do another Vice. I don't know. Maybe like some show tickets or something, a flyer, something cool like that. That's like, you know, that'll take me on a trip to nostalgia. It'll be like, oh, I remember this. I remember this concert. I remember headlining here.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think that's my 5.
that's cool.
I'm sure I'll get home and be like, no, I should have said this.
Uh-oh. All right, should we see
Yeah,
see
let's check it out.